Amusement parks are all about fun and good vibes, right? But what if I told you that over the years, some seriously creepy stuff has gone down at Mickey's Park? Yeah, that Disney park? Stuff so dark it might make you think twice before hopping on your favorite ride. Today we're diving into real stories of people who lost their lives at Disneyland. But before we get into it, go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. Some accidents are so horrifying, Disney tries to erase them from memory. One of the worst happened at Dreamworld, a Disney-affiliated theme park in Australia. In October 2016, the Thunder River Rapids ride was supposed to be a relaxing, family-friendly experience. You'd hop into a big round raft and float down an artificial river with rapids and water sprays. But on October 25th, something went terribly wrong. A mechanical failure caused one of the rafts to get stuck on a conveyor belt. The force of the current flipped the raft violently. 2 passengers were thrown out. The other 2 were pinned under the ride's massive machinery. All 4 victims were crushed to death in front of horrified bystanders. Emergency crews arrived fast, but by then it was too late to save anyone. The ride was permanently shut down, and a full investigation uncovered major lapses in safety protocols and maintenance. Disney and Dreamworld were slammed with criticism for failing to modernize the ride's systems. What was supposed to be a carefree day at the park became a nightmare, and a grim reminder that fun and danger can ride side by side. In 2000, a horrifying accident occurred on Roger Rabbit's cartoon Spin in Disneyland, California, one that would haunt a family for years. Brandon Zucker was only 4 years old. His mom, Victoria, was celebrating her 40th birthday and took her son on what was supposed to be a harmless, cartoonish ride. But at some point during the ride, Brandon slipped from the seat, falling between the ride car and the track. What happened next is pure nightmare fuel. The ride didn't stop. The car rolled over him, crushing his chest and skull. For nearly 10 minutes, he was trapped beneath the ride while park staff struggled to shut it down. Brandon survived, but just barely. He suffered major brain damage and remained in a semi-vegetative state for the next 8 years. He couldn't speak, he couldn't move. He was essentially locked inside his own body until he passed away in 2009 from complications tied to the injuries. After the incident, Disney updated the ride's safety belts and seat design, but for Brandon and his family, the damage had already been done. This one doesn't just sound like a horror story, it is one. In 1974, 18-year-old Deborah Gale Stone was working at Disneyland's America Sings, a rotating stage show with animatronic animals and musical performances. It was quirky, it was fun, until the night Deborah got caught between the rotating platform and the stationary wall. She was crushed to death while the show was still going. Her screams were drowned out by music and animatronic characters singing upbeat tunes. It took a while for other employees to realize what had happened, and by the time they reached her, it was far too late. Deborah died doing a simple job.
Yankee Doodle liked the South, sang their song so dear, thought they were most elegant for everyone to hear. Yankee Doodle singing up to Yankee Doodle language, fine music and the working with the song behind.
Introducing acts, smiling at guests. After her death, the ride was closed temporarily. Disney installed motion sensors and safety barriers to prevent another tragedy. Her family sued, and the case was settled quietly behind the scenes. The show kept running for years, but cast members and guests still remember that day, the day a teen girl was killed by the machine meant to entertain. The Matterhorn bobsleds is one of Disneyland's oldest and most iconic rides, but in 1984 it became the scene of a gruesome death. Dolly Young, 48, was riding the roller coaster when she was ejected from her seat mid-ride. She tumbled onto the track and was struck by an oncoming bobsled at high speed. She died instantly. The investigation revealed her seatbelt wasn't properly secured, but it was never confirmed whether it was faulty or if Dolly had unbuckled it herself herself. Her family sued Disney for $5 million. The case never went to court. It was settled privately, and Disney avoided further public scrutiny. Still, the story left a chilling legacy. Cast members say Dolly's ghost still haunts the ride. Some even claim to feel her presence in the spot where she died. Not all Disney deaths happen on rides. In 2003, a backstage accident at the Hyperion Theater claimed the life of a 36-year-old stage technician. He was prepping for a musical performance when he fell 60 feet from a catwalk. He was rushed to the hospital and placed in a coma, but he never woke up. A month later, he passed away. OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, conducted an investigation and discovered that the park hadn't provided proper safety equipment for working at that height. Their punishment? A fine of $18,000. Barely pocket change for a company like Disney. For the workers' family, it wasn't just about money, it was about negligence. One moment of poor safety oversight ended in tragedy. You'd never expect one of the creepiest real-life horror stories to come from a place like Disney, right? The so-called happiest place on Earth. Yeah, well, brace yourself. Back in 1976, Disney opened River Country, its very first water park. The twist, instead of using filtered water, they pulled it straight from Bay Lake, trying to give guests that natural river experience. Cool idea on paper, until things took a dark turn. In 1980, an 11-year-old boy started feeling sick a few days after his visit. First it was just a headache, then a fever, then things got real serious. Doctors discovered he'd been infected with a brain-eating amoeba that had entered through his nose and gone straight for his nervous system. It's rare, but almost always deadly. The boy didn't survive, and the case made headlines. Despite the backlash, River Country stayed open for years, only closing for good in 2001. Now it's just sitting there abandoned and super creepy. A Disney honeymoon, total dream, or so it seemed. For Christina Moreno and her husband, their trip to the Magic Kingdom ended in heartbreak. In June 2000, after hopping on the Indiana Jones adventure, one of those fast, jerky, unpredictable rides, Christina started feeling a massive headache, not the kind you sleep off. Hours later, she collapsed. She was rushed to the hospital, where doctors found a brain hemorrhage. She went into a coma and never woke up. 2 months later, she passed away. Her family blamed the ride's intense motion and filed a lawsuit against Disney. In 2007, they reached a confidential settlement. It's the kind of tragedy no one expects at a theme park, especially not one like Disney. Christmas Eve, 1998, Disneyland is packed. Everyone's buzzing with holiday spirit, but for one family, the day would end in disaster. Luan Dawson, 33, was with his wife and daughter near the Columbia sailing ship, part of the Tom Sawyer Island attraction. While docking, a mooring rope snapped violently, sending a heavy metal cleat flying into the crowd. Luan was struck in the head. His injuries were massive. His wife was hurt too, though less seriously. Paramedics got him to the hospital fast, but it wasn't enough. Later investigations showed Disney had been using synthetic ropes, which don't stretch and are more likely to snap under pressure. They were cheaper, but more dangerous. After Luan's death, Disney quietly changed their safety rules, but the damage was done. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is supposed to be fun, a runaway mine train zooming through desert caverns, but in 2003 it turned into a death trap. A critical maintenance error caused one of the front cars to derail at high speed. A broken axle caused the train to jump the tracks, throwing everything into chaos. Marcelo Torres, 22, was in the front seat. The crash left him with fatal chest and internal injuries. 10 other guests were injured, some seriously with broken bones and deep gashes. An investigation revealed the ride hadn't been properly maintained. The bolts holding parts of the train together were loose, literal nuts and bolts falling apart. The ride shut down for repairs, and Disney got slapped with major fines. Marcelo's death marked the 10th fatality at Disneyland since 1955. Let's go way back. May 15th, 1964. Mark Maples, a 15-year-old kid, made history in the worst way. He was riding the Matterhorn bobsleds, one of Disney's original thrill rides, simulating a snowy mountain run. But during the ride, Mark unbuckled his seatbelt and tried to stand up, probably messing around. Bad idea. He lost his balance and was thrown out of the bobsled, landing hard on the concrete track below. The injuries were catastrophic. He didn't survive. After that, Disney realized maybe, just maybe, guests shouldn't be able to unbuckle seatbelts mid-ride. They introduced locking restraints, added more safety signs, and trained employees to keep a closer eye on guests. Even so, the Matterhorn stayed insanely popular. It was the park's first roller coaster, and clearly, people have short memories. February 11th, 2004. Javier Cruz, a Disneyland cast member, was doing what he loved, playing Pluto in one of the park's iconic parades. But things took a horrifying turn. While performing, Javier was accidentally run over by one of the parade floats. The massive vehicle pulled him underneath and he was crushed instantly. Guests were in shock. Families, kids, they watched the whole thing happen. One moment, Pluto's dancing down Main Street. The next, he's gone. Just like that. The incident exposed how even behind the fairy tale, things can go terribly wrong. Disney reviewed all their parade safety protocols after that. But for Javier and the people who saw it happen, that day left a scar that never really fades. Thanks for hanging out till the end. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment. Till next time,